Welcome to another episode of Tools, Talents, and Techniques. I'm your host, Dustin Sutton, and today our guest is none other than Mr. Will Poole. He's a former professional football player, national champion, and Rose Bowl defensive MVP, but this conversation goes well beyond just sports accolades. We talk about Will and his journey and him as his entire person, holistically, and all the challenges that are beyond the glory and all the things that you see and challenges in his personal life and ways that he's overcome it and continues to find ways to overcome challenges in his life, and even bouts of substance abuse and off the field issues, a lot of things. But Will is, I'm thrilled to be able to call him a friend and a colleague and just a remarkable man. And I hope that you take from this certain things that I know can be important in a lot of people's lives, and that's persevering, being thoughtful, and giving it your best effort in whatever it is that you're going for. So without any further ado, here he is, Mr. Will Poole. Will Poole, welcome to the podcast.
Oh, man. Thanks, Dustin. I appreciate you for having me. It's good to be here.
It's going to be a lot of fun because there's a lot to cover, but I'm really excited to dive into your project, Project Free Will. But before we go there, could you quickly just introduce yourself and who you are, a little bit about you?
Yeah, no problem. So my name is Will Poole. I am a former NFL football player. I'm originally from New York City. Grew up in Queens, New York. After that, I went to Boston College to play football. Transferred out of there and went to Ventura College to play football. From there, I ended up at USC, which ended up being home. Played for Pete Carroll, won a national championship there, and then got drafted in the fourth round to the Miami Dolphins. But, growing up in New York City, I played a lot of basketball growing up. As soon as the sun comes out there, the basketball courts are filled up. I was a only child to teenage parents. So my earlier childhood, from up until first grade, I was living in West Virginia with my grandmother. My grandmother, Joanne, she was the one that put me into sports. I started off playing t-ball out there in West Virginia. And then, that's a time when we were raised by the community in the early 80s. I did a lot of fishing, a lot of playing with BB guns, and then all the sports. And then one day I moved from the woods to the city. As my mom's, figured things out, got her life together, I went back to New York and ended up in Brooklyn, New York in my early years. And at a Super Bowl party right around 1988 is where the dream started. I was watching the Denver Broncos versus the Washington Redskins. And I was just sitting in front of the TV like, oh, my goodness, this is crazy. I didn't have any previous connection with football at the time other than playing outside with my friends,
How old were you at this time?
I was 8.
Okay.
Yeah. And so that was the beginning of my dream. I grew up in New York City playing all 3 sports. High school, I played all 3 sports. I knew that I wasn't going to go to college unless I played at least basketball and football. I didn't really have a lot of prerequisites for the college other than, do you guys play on TV 8 times a year? Can I play basketball, at the time, right? That's just the way it was for me at that moment, just going into college. That's really all I cared about. I didn't care about academics. I just did the schoolwork because I know I needed to pass in order to play. And so that's, I ended up there. Fast forward, got drafted, career was over. And then the transition really started. So
okay,
a little bit about me.
You just skipped over so much, so we're going to dive into a couple of these things. That's all good. You set the groundwork. That's good. So your first love sport was basketball.
Yes.
Who was your favorite player?
Jordan.
Yeah.
Mike. MJ.
And so when you were out playing, do you feel like going towards football later, and basketball was still your soul. Was there anything that transferred as far as your skills that transferred immediately to the football field?
Oh, tons of basketball skills transferred over to football. Anticipation, catching the ball at its high point, like for rebounds, defense, sliding your feet, fast twitch movements. So a lot of things was able to transfer over from basketball to the football field. If you look at wide receivers now, like a Stephon Diggs or those guys that like Mike McDaniel's coach, who's the head coach of the Miami Dolphins, their wide receiver releases are actual basketball moves. They're doing crossovers, in and out crossovers. That's what they're doing. So like, I used to tell guys all the time growing up in New York that played basketball, like, you're not going to the NBA, but if you put this helmet on, you would be a first round pick. A bunch of basketball rejects, the 6'2" guys that could be just amazing athletes, So basketball helps tremendously with football.
So when did you start to see that was going to be the difference, that you could maybe play basketball, but football was really where you could get an immediate, or was that your sentiment at the time?
Well, it's funny because growing up in New York City, a lot of my friends didn't even know I played football. I was like covertly going and playing football and was like really good, right? The best in the city. But I also was really good in basketball. I played on a nationally ranked high school team, Christ the King High School. We was ranked number 2 and 3, both my junior and senior year. I played with Riverside Church, one of the top AAU programs, and went to Paris and all kind of places to play basketball. And so, growing up, football was always, my number one sport, but I didn't have anything to like hang a hat on, meaning I didn't have anybody to like compare myself with in New York City with football. Where at basketball, I was playing against guys that was going to the NBA, Mm-hmm. And so I had something to compare myself to, but football's always been my number one sport for the simple fact that I figured out like, I could run into people full speed and not get in trouble. I had a lot of aggression as a young child, and so yeah, football was always my number one thing. It wasn't a question about it, and I wasn't even playing football up until I was 12 years old, organized. But for some innate reason, the vision that God gave me, I just knew I was going to go to the NFL.
Well, I want to talk about your transition when you went to college and what that was like. But before we do that, you mentioned that academics was not something that interested you at all, right? Do you think, in hindsight, was there anything, and again, this is all hindsight, that you had control over that you could have done differently as far as that? I mean, I don't want to say it's like regrets, but like, man, I wish I had done this, or maybe if I did a little bit more of this, I wouldn't have faced it. Was there anything like that in your mind?
I mean, yeah, definitely have some type of thoughts, like maybe if I would have looked more into the finance world. I think about that stuff periodically, but at the time, growing up in New York City and growing up in the environment I grew up in, those weren't the things that I was looking at, right? I was looking at Bo Jackson. I was looking at Deion Sanders. I was looking at, Michael Jordan. I was just looking at Jerry Rice, all these great athletes. And all I could think of was playing sports. So it's like, okay, what's the road there? You go to high school, college, and then you go to the pros. I didn't think anything outside of that. Like, I didn't go to guidance counselors. It was no doubt in my mind that was going to happen. And then I realized that I have to do my schoolwork in order to continue to play. So that was the catalyst for me having great grades, is the fact that I wanted to play. I didn't want college coaches to come and look at me like some dumb jock, because I'm not. I just put all my eggs in one basket, that was kind of my mindset. Education, my mom and my stepdad, they wanted me to go to college and graduate and, push education. But I was so knee deep into the basketball and football world, I wasn't thinking about school.
So one of the things that I think is so remarkable about, and one of the things I love about doing this and having these conversations, your journey and all the things that you've seen, and we're going to cover many of them here, and playing college, playing professionally, then going to the corporate world, and being an entrepreneur, all these things, is that now you have a spectrum of context that you can share with other people. And that's one of the things we'll talk about your project, and even what I'm doing now, is that now we have an opportunity to show other people, like, yes, it's this, the sports is this, but then with the education is this, and your drive to accomplish anything that you want to do is this, and they all work in tandem. And it's just a remarkable thing that I think we have the opportunity now to really make an impact on other people coming up now.
Absolutely. 1000%. One of the things that I shared towards the end of my speaking engagements is that, one of the biggest things that we could do as humans is withhold information, especially if I can give someone half my age a shortcut, because as you and I both know, there you can make a decision that could set you back 10, 15, 20 years or the rest of your life. And, I want to be able to share the information that I have based on, my life and the testimonies that I've been able to put together through the grace of God, and be able to still be here and make it through to, empower somebody else and give them some golden nuggets for themselves to be able to kind of like, sit with and, take it how they please, and take what type of information applies to them. But yeah, I think the most selfish thing we could do is have information and not give it to anybody,
and I give it to
it's free. Yeah.
So I digress. So you go to college, you're playing sports in college. Tell me about that transition and that experience for you.
Well, it was an interesting experience now that I look back on it, because I went to college just unprepared for life. I made most of my decisions as a child on my own. And with that level of freedom, there's some drawbacks on that. So I went into Boston College with no identity of who Will Poole is. Yeah, I was good on the football field, played in my redshirt freshman year, got draft status, but I was gonna eventually crash out because of my impulsivity, because of my lack there of understanding of who I am, and eventually I got dismissed from the school for stealing. So I went to school 1,000% unprepared for life.
Do you think, and this is not taking any personal accountability, but when you talk about being prepared, was there anything else that maybe the school could have done to help prepare, or maybe your high school? I mean, I think I'm a big part, like, personal accountability, right? And I know you are too. Like, you do things that you should have done, whatever. It is what it is. But do you think, are there anything that the community, the schools could have done to help ease that transition of student athletes?
I think things could be in place, but I went to a PWI. So, at the end of the day, it's definitely going to be a huge disconnect as to what some youth coming in from the inner city may need, And so I think certain schools like that have high profile athletes coming in should implement some type of programs where, young athletes, young adults could come in and feel comfortable in their new environment and be able to help them, with a soft landing based on having someone there that actually understands them. But at the end of the day, as I look back on it, there were probably opportunities out there that someone came up to me and, try to, talk to me, and, for whatever reasons, it just didn't register. From maybe it could have been whoever the person, who the person was, or just the timing. But there, I could look through my life in chapters, and I could point out different moments where there were opportunities for, someone to come in and encourage you, and you kind of see things from a different lens. But until you're ready, it'll fall on deaf ears. Yeah.
Yeah. So after you deal with this scenario, so how did you, and again, this name of this podcast is Tools, Talents, and Techniques. Were there any tools or techniques that you used to get back on your feet after being dismissed?
Yeah, I just, first of all, I did the crime, I did the time. I got suspended for a semester, and unfortunately for me, that was the football semester. So now I'm home watching my team play, and I just had to go and make sure that when it was time for me to go back to college, wherever that was, that I was more mature, bigger, faster, stronger. I went and got a job, and I also took a couple classes at Queens College just to, still be active and still working towards my ultimate degree goal. And so, just the spirit of being resilient, which is a skill, something it's an innate trait that I feel like is a skill. And then just having that, fight inside of me, that North Star. I never lost sight of the North Star, which was the actual dream. But now, at this current moment in my life, at that stage in my life, the dream was absolutely starting to cost me. It was costing a lot. My dream actually cost me in the long run. It cost me my mental health, my education, and it also cost me my childhood.
So when you at this stage, when you're talking about the dream, can you elaborate on where the next steps were you and how you saw the vision and the steps that you took to get there?
So, the vision definitely was still to make it to the NFL, but the journey quickly changed. There was, maybe I need to go to D1 AA route, D2 route. Then I got a phone call from a coach over at Boston College, surprisingly, because I was getting ready to go on a legal battle. Like, hey, look, I need to play football. Mm-hmm. And so he called me and let me know that, you could go to junior college and get re-recruited. So a graduate assistant who was at Boston College when I was there ended up taking an offensive coordinator job at Ventura College. And next thing you know, I spoke to him maybe on a Wednesday. The next Tuesday, I was on a plane to California to play at Ventura College with 2 years left for eligibility. And so, I came out here on a mission.
Yeah.
It was, I was 21. I made second team All Big East as a redshirt freshman. So I had draft status at this point. And, junior college is like 13th grade. And so, playing against Michael Vick already, playing against that 2001 Miami Hurricanes team already, I'm like, hey, look, if I don't go out here and dominate these 17-year-old, 18-year-old, young adults in 13th grade, then I'm not as good as I think I am. And so I did. I got about 40 tackles, 7 interceptions, 6 block kicks. It was, I've already played 2 years of like major college football. So I had technique, I had skill. They didn't even know. So I was kind of cheating a little bit, but it worked out. I was the first team All-American and I got a scholarship to USC for a 1-for-1. So
that's amazing. And so then you go to USC. Mm-hmm. And tell me about that experience. And especially at school that you already had this experience. And let's go back from high school, playing on a nationally ranked basketball team. You go to Boston College, big program. Again, you go back to 13th grade. That's funny. I didn't think about that. And then you go to USC, which is, the biggest, one of the biggest of the big. Like, what was that experience like going there?
Probably going. It was the greatest. Probably one of the greatest sports experience that I ever had. Again, like I knew I was going to the NFL, but if you would have told me I was going to go to USC, that was already preseason ranked number 2, come out first game against Auburn, number 1 versus number 2, competing for a national championship, I was all in, and I got the last scholarship up there because, I was a 1-for-1, meaning I only had 1 year left of eligibility, and so when I think about that and getting that scholarship and I got that phone call and I think about the last 18 months, right? Because 18 months prior to me getting a phone call from Ed Ogeron, I was back at my mom's house trying to figure out my life. Like I was working on Madison Avenue as a security guard, wearing polyester and pop-in ties, and all my friends like, hey, ain't you supposed to be playing football or something on TV? And I'm getting back on the bus and I'm back in the neighborhood. And so, I didn't want to go back to the neighborhood. And so getting that scholarship to USC, I remember the day they called me and was like, "Hey, we got the scholarship for you." I didn't need a parent's signature because I was already an adult, right? And so they said, "Do you want us to send it in the courier, or we can send it overnight to tomorrow?" I was like, "Man, you send that thing in the courier right now. I don't want y'all to change your mind. I'm finna sign that thing right now." So he sent it. It came about 7 p.m. I signed that thing with all my friends in there, and then I just start crying.
Yeah, because I mean, I imagine all that took to get to that point. You know, like all the ups and the downs and the stuff that you had to fight through to get there. That makes sense. That makes sense.
Thanks.
When you talk about the culture in these different and having these different experiences, can you talk about the experience of being at USC with that team and how that compared to some of the other cultures? Anything that you learned during that time about yourself, about teamwork, about leadership, about competition, anything?
Yeah, I mean, so when I got to SC, I got there and I'm like, "Oh, this is real. This is real football." Boston College was cool, but they were actually okay with going 6-4, 7-3, getting to like an Insight.com bowl. They didn't care about national championships and playing BCS January 1st games. I did though at Boston College. So I used to get into it with a lot of people about their effort and the things that they actually cared about, because I'm like, look, I want to win. And because if we win, everybody gets an opportunity. So when I got to SC, the first thing I could recognize was, oh, wow, we got a lot of athletes. A lot of people could play. But the most important thing that there was the foundation that they built. It felt like a family. It really felt like a family. It felt like our coaches really cared about us. And Pete put us in position to be successful. And competing was at the top of the list for us, right? Healthy competition. So we used to have this thing called Competition Tuesdays. Each one-on-one that we would have on that day would be filmed. So wide receiver versus DB, running back versus linebacker, O-line, D-line. And it'd get filmed. Each individual one-on-one battle. The next day, Wednesday's team meeting, the whole team, and we got the big screen up there. We're watching the one-on-ones. So now everybody in there, as you can imagine, is like, he got work. Rewind the tape. And so what that created was an atmosphere of like healthy competition, because you didn't want to be the guy on the tape that get embarrassed and now everybody pointing at you, so every Tuesday it'll just the level of raise. And it just iron sharpens irons. It just made us that much better. So when we got to the game on Saturday, it was easy. Like the games were literally the easiest part of those years playing for Pete Carroll when we won those national championships, because we practiced so hard. You practice how you play, right? So if you either get better or you get worse, you don't stay the same. You're right. So you practice how you play, full speed, intensity. I'm not trying to hurt anybody, but I'm also not trying to get beat. I'm not trying to lose. Right. And so then you come together on a Saturday as one unit. Oh man, we was going out there. We was really intimidated. The game was over before the game started a lot of times.
Did you feel now, or even in retrospect, thinking back then, did that start to bleed over into other parts of your life on how you prepare for things and how you approach things?
Yes. For me, I was at SC for 6 months because I was a 1-for-1. As soon as the season was over, I left to get ready for the NFL. That small window of time in my 42 years created so much for me, so much understanding of leadership from Pete Carroll. Pete Carroll used to say things on a Thursday like, look around the team meeting room and go, "You guys are ready." And just him saying that, I felt like I was ready, right? But it was because we prepared. What he did was he put the best of the best coaches in position to be successful and let them do their jobs, right? He wasn't in every meeting and, trying to have his hand in everything. He just, got the best people and let them go do their thing and be the best. And he just kind of like made sure everything was status quo. And he's a real person. And as an athlete, you could feel that. We all can feel that. So no, it was great times. That was the best. That was the best.
Well, I definitely want to put a pin in that comment and Pete Carroll and how he does that leadership when we start talking about the transition into the corporate world. So we got to definitely touch on that. But I don't want to skip over your NFL career because that's remarkable, and I'd love to hear you expand on what that experience was like for you.
Well, the experience was great, but I'll be remiss not just being honest and letting you that I still was dealing with issues that I had. I still was having identity issues. I still made it to the league, and it's not lost on me that all the stars aligned for me to get there. I'm so absolutely grateful for that opportunity. But I made it, and I made it on a broken child's dream. I got to the league. I played my rookie year. I left a lot of plays on the field. I started really becoming a little bit more impulsive. Now I'm making money. And I remember I had the rookie starter pack, the Escalade on 24s, the 40-inch chain with the watch and everything that comes along with it.
Called the rookie starter pack?
Yeah, the NFL rookie starter pack. And I remember walking down the street one day in like South Beach, and I kind of looked at myself in the reflection, and I was just in awe, just shocked at what I saw. And that probably was the last time I really wore like jewelry like that, because I just didn't really like the way that felt. And so, my NFL career fell short. I got injured the next 2 years. And I quite frankly left a lot of plays on the field, and those are the things that, through the grace of God, I've been able to kind of deal with day to day. Some days is tougher than others, but, and that all comes and stems from, childhood, lack there of identity, understanding of yourself, of self, and, putting myself in those positions. So, yeah, I look back at my NFL career. I'm thankful that I got a chance to realize my dream, but I left a lot of plays on the field.
Yeah. Well, one thing I don't want to overlook what you said is, you remember the moment that you looked at yourself and were like, what am I doing? You remember that exact moment?
I remember it like it was yesterday. I was about to go out. It was daytime. And I don't know, we was just like parked. I remember exactly where it was at. It was on, I want to say it was on Collins and like maybe 3rd Street or 4th Street or something like that. I was walking towards like, I don't know where I was going, but I looked in like, they got the stores. I looked at one of the stores and I saw my reflection. It was just like, because you're like, why is everybody looking? You walking like, what is everybody looking at? Look at that. Why are they looking at me? Right. And I'm walking around with jewelry and chain and glasses. And it's like, oh, that's what I don't like.
Yeah.
It's not me. So pretty much I was already doing things like that. That's just not who I am,
Yeah. Well, I think that's such a impactful moment to reflect on, because being able to acknowledge of like how you feel and how you think, even if you can't really nail it down, and we talk about identity, it's like what is it? It doesn't feel right. Like, this isn't me. And that's a very evolved starting point, right? To be able to make change, to make different decisions with what you're doing. Because sometimes if you never realize that, if you never come to that point, then how are you going to make different decisions? How are you going to build on that?
No, yeah, 100% right. I mean, that was my rookie year. So, I played 16 games that year, started a few. Going into my second year, we got a new coach. That's when Nick Saban came and was the coach of the Dolphins. And, I don't know the date that he took the job or his first day on the job, but the very first time I met Nick Saban was definitely not the way I wanted to meet him. I just recently got a DUI and got out of jail. And this is me meeting Nick Saban the very first time, straight from jail, in a Sean John oversized velour suit, smelling like alcohol and just disheveled. I didn't get to go home, no shower, no change of clothes, go straight to the head coach. This is my very first time meeting Nick Saban. And
so how'd that go?
Yeah, it's like, hey, nice to meet you, coach. And we talked about the SC LSU game, like, because the year before we split a national championship with LSU and he was the coach. I think we would have won. So we had that little banter, and the next thing he said was, "It's a terrible way to meet you."
Yeah.
And then we went in conversation, and he asked me a question that I still think about today. He said, "What do you want your legacy to be?" And I was just like, "What?" I didn't even know. Like, up until that moment, I've never had anybody ask me that. I didn't even know what that was.
Hold on, wait a minute. On my end, you froze for a second. You were like, I still think about this to this day. And then you said something, it froze. Sorry, okay. Could you say it again?
So I still think about this to this day. Nick Saban asked me, "What do you want your legacy to be?"
Mm-hmm.
And at that moment, I've never had anyone ever ask me that. I didn't know what that meant. Like, I know what legacy is, but I didn't know what it meant in that context.
Mm-hmm.
And so that kind of just had me stuck, for a second. And eventually the meeting was over, and I had to go do the things I needed to do for the courts and et cetera. But he took a liking to me. At the moment, I just kind of shifted gears and just start diving into football. And I was playing good football going into my second year. Games start slowing down. Stopped drinking, but I just stopped drinking because I got in trouble. I didn't stop drinking because I was trying to better myself. And then I tore my ACL meniscus. Going into my second year, I was starting, so I'm ready now, the NFL, getting ready to be a starter and go do my thing, play on the field. I tore my ACL and meniscus, and I haven't played an NFL game after that. And from that point on, my alcoholism just kind of took over. I just, I didn't have the ability to bounce back from that, because again, I'm still on a broken child dream. I'm still, I still don't know who I am, so all those impulsive decisions and just that way of life, ultimately it eventually, it's cyclical. Man,
I'm so sorry to hear that. I mean, it's now that I know the man that you are and who you are, today, it's like, I know that it's a happy story here, but that's so tough to hear about what you actually have to go through in those moments. And I'd imagine you talk about identity. I can only imagine, and I've had injuries in my life, but I never played professional sports or anything like that. But I imagine you're so tied your identity to living this dream, this broken child's dream, but you're living it, and then it's gone, and the tools that you have around you, the coping mechanisms, and if yours, in this instance is alcohol, that's what you're going to go to. That's what you're going to use to get through it. And man, it's unfortunate.
Yeah, I'm definitely grateful to be able to be here on this podcast and share that story. I feel like throughout my life, all the trials and ups and downs prepared me for this moment exactly to share this story at this moment in my life, to be able to give someone else that shortcut, or give someone else a little bit of understanding of the things that's out there as you go down your career path, whether it's sports or not. There's going to be ups and downs, valleys and peaks, and how we handle that is super important.
Yeah. So after your injuries, and was there, before you go to the find your life after football, was there a comeback there? Did you, what was the next steps in your progression?
I was trying to play forever, man. So eventually I came back, but then, I got, people in the NFL pretty much start finding out about my alcoholism. So it became a little bit more difficult, for me to get a job, because at the end of the day, if you're good, your issues, you're good, your athletic skills outweigh, your issues. But as soon as you stop, producing, and then you just keep getting, sooner or later, those problems start outweighing, your value. And that's when they're like, all right, we're done with you. And so, and then I look back as a business, right? Today, I understand business. Back then, I didn't understand business that way. And everything is relationship based, right? So coaches, they all the same coaches. Some of them coaches, the same coaches I had. So relationships, GMs, they all talk, and I know that I'm not going to give a referral to someone that I know the person I'm referring is just not going to stand up individual, or, not necessarily not a stand up individual, but is a liability because of the impulsivity, like I like you, but I don't trust you.
Yeah.
Because, I'm giving you this money and I don't know what you're going to do on Wednesday when we got practice Thursday. Right. So I understood that. And then I ended up, trying out for different teams, had a cup of coffee with Kansas City. Then I got cut from that team. And I ended up in Toronto in Canada. And so I played 8 games there half the year. The next season went back to Kansas City again. That probably wasn't a good idea. But I went back again because I'm trying to, I'm trying to get back in the league. I want the league money. Get cut again. Now I'm back in Canada for 8 games. And that was the writing on the wall right there. I'm like, listen, they play 18 games up here in Canada. They got 18 checks. I'm missing half the season because I'm sitting here trying to play football in the NFL. And I'm missing some checks up here. I'm missing about 9 checks, And so I just like, look, I'm done with the NFL. And I'm going to just stay up in Canada and just finish my career up there. So that's what I did.
When it was eventually time for you to bow out, when you're done, what was that transition like? How long before you were finished were you thinking about the transition out and what you were going to do next?
So, while I was in Canada, I was going through it because I'm like, well, what am I like? What do we have for the people that's transitioning, right? Like, and so I retired, and there's no soft landing after retiring from professional sports, right? There's no soft landing. There's no initial descent, like, hey, it's initial descent. You're free to walk around cabin. You use the bathroom. It's your chance. And then you get another message saying, all right, fasten the seatbelts. We're getting ready to touch down. When it's over, it's over. It's like a cliff.
Mm-hmm. You're
done, right? And trying to figure out what's next after that, especially not having an identity going into it, was probably some of the most difficult times that I've had. Not to mention, I didn't have a degree. And so, trying to enter into life at 30 years old, 31 years old, with no college degree and just no actual work experience, you're looking at hourly wages, $15 an hour, $18 an hour. This is not a career. So naturally it's like, all right, well, I'll train or I'll coach or, I'll do something in the field that I know. But I never really wanted to do that because I didn't want to be no coach. Next thing you know, I'm in some other state. Every other year I'm traveling, and it's just not the life that I wanted. Growing up in New York City, I always had a infinity for business. I wanted to, be a businessman. There's a lot of things I wanted to do, but I didn't know how to get there. So that's when I really dove into my substance abuse a lot more during those periods of from my retirement until I went back to school. And it got bad to the point where my family thought that they were going to receive a call and it was going to be someone calling saying something happened to me. And when I heard the news of that, I just laid out on the floor and started crying for 3 hours. Uncontrollably, I could not stop crying. That was May 15th, 2014. I went to an AA meeting May 15th. I went to an AA meeting on May 16th, 2014, and that was the last day I had a drink. I just did a 90 for 90, just going to meetings every day for 90 days. And then 6 months later, I'm on a plane back to LA because I'm going back to USC to finish up my degree. 6 months sober, so scared of everything right now because now I'm feeling all the feelings that I felt that I used to like kind of drink on. And not to mention I had a DUI here, just sitting here waiting for me. You know, in 2007, I got a DUI. I went to Canada and I had a warrant when I got back in 2015. So I had a lot of cleaning up to do when I got back to LA. And, you know, I was able to, you know, do that, take care of that DUI. It got reduced to a reckless driving based on just where I was at in my life at that moment. When I did that, I had about 6 or 9 months sober, had the chip that I was bringing in to the court. Like, hey, I got the 24 hour, I got the 3 months. I'm going to meet tonight. And so, you know, I did that. And then I went back to school, wanted to challenge myself, be radically open-minded and study political science at SC. And then I just started diving into just inwardly becoming the person that God ultimately intended me to be from birth. And so I'm still on that journey of that work because, again, once I got sober, now I'm left to deal with all the pain, all the torment, everything that was inside of me that was leading me down these pathways of destruction. Now I got to deal with it. Now I got to look at it. I got to deal with it internally. And man, that was tough. You know, it's tough. It's tough to, you know, look at yourself and see, you know, oh, wow, you're pretty selfish. You know, oh, wow, that was wrong. You know, you see all the things that you've done over the years and, you know, it leaves a distaste. So, you know, through the inward work, I was just able to, you know, get on the other side of that.
You mentioned AA. Were there any other resources that you went to that you found were helpful, whether they be organizations or otherwise, people, groups, anything else that has really helped you through the times?
So at the time remember I told you I was coaching football. So I was doing this football camp called Football University, right? A buddy of mine's named Sam Madison, who's now the defensive back coach for the Miami Dolphins. He was like, hey man, I got this camp, you know, they're going to pay you like $600-700. It's a weekend thing. They put you in a hotel Friday, Saturday, Sunday. You know, it'll be cool. All you're doing is, you know, teaching the kids how to play football. They got middle school kids, high school kids, you doing one-on-ones, watching film. I'm like, what? They're going to give me $700 and I get a hotel for the weekend? Yes. Sign me up. I'm retired. I didn't have anything to do with my life at the time. I was trying to figure life out. And then I got to this camp and I'm like, man, how much these kids pay? They're like about $500. I'm like, how many kids here? It's like about 300. I'm like, how many camps do you guys go to? We got about 40 this year. I'm like, how can I be down?
Yeah.
Right. And so I got an opportunity to be on a travel circuit with this football university camp. I was going to about 15 states a year, going to these different places and putting on football camps. It was great. And a guy by the name of Kwame Lassiter, rest in peace, he passed away a few years back. One camp I was at, he looked at me and was like, what are you doing with your life? I was like, what? Have you ever heard of the NFL Trust? And I'm like, nah, what's that? I'm like, every time I call an NFL PA, I feel like I'm calling the DMV. You know, it's hard to get in touch with somebody to get some services. Like, they not dealing with you unless you painting man into somebody like that, you know? So the NFL Trust came. It was an organization that was affiliated with the NFL for services just like what we're talking about. So one of the services that they had was, I can help you go back to school. So I left USC in bad academic standings because I just went to school to play football. And so, you know, although they had scholarship money for me to go back to, being that I was on probation, and I'm so far out, this is like 11 years later, right? So now it's like, hey, you could come back to school, but you got to prove that this is something that you want to do. So So you gotta, let's get the NFL trust to pay for 2 classes, come in and take 2 classes, then take another 2 classes in a semester. So we put a degree plan together and the NFL trust paid for it. So the NFL trust services helped me out tremendously. Therapy, psychiatric, player care foundation when I needed help while I was in school with my bills. I mean, they're everything. So the NFL trust, everything for me. And they about to have their 10-year anniversary. I joined them about 10 years ago. I was probably like the 3rd or 4th person involved with the NFL trust. And thank you to Kwame Lassiter. May he rest in peace, because I don't know what would have happened if he didn't say that,
It's amazing how serendipitous that can be. Like, some just randomly somebody says something on a day that, he could have easily talked about something else, but the fact that he said that and led you to there, and you saying that that's been everything, it's remarkable. That's remarkable.
It literally, because when you stop playing football, when you're playing sports, I can look to my sideline and I have a coach. Giving me directions. Everything in my life was, all right, 8 o'clock be here, 8:30 here, 9 o'clock, it was figured out for me already, and, you have a team, accountability, you have everything with the team. We're all trying to win. We hold each other accountable, etc. But once it's over, who's your coach? Who's your team? I would say everyone that's in a transition from sports, you need 3 things. You need a coach, you need a team, and you need somebody that's there for you that does not have any skin in the game, right? Because while we're playing, you got parents, they got skin in the game. You got girlfriends, they got skin in the game. Like, some of the people that you have around you, there's some added value to being associated with you, right? Yeah. Not saying that that's what they're looking for, like, oh, since I'm here, you got to do this. That's not necessarily the case, but there's like an emotional attachment to that. Like, you feel that, as opposed to when somebody like, oh no, I just want to see you do good.
Yeah. That's what, one of the things, and just to allude to with the Black Commercial Real Estate Network, one of the things that I find the most joy in is being able to help somebody where it really doesn't, like, I don't even realize how much I've learned over the years until somebody asks me a question about something. I'm like, oh yeah, just this and that. And it's not a big deal to me to share that, but to them it could mean the world. And you're like, oh wow, I guess I have learned a lot. I guess I am doing something, because, honestly, sometimes I've felt so rudderless and so like, what am I doing? I don't fit in this industry, and am I enjoying this? And there's an identity thing there as well in the commercial real estate. So that really resonates with me when you saying that, when of like, you need somebody like that. And that's one of the things that I'm trying to do for other people as well, because it's amazing how much that can blossom into other things when you take that attitude.
Yeah, I mean, it's been huge for my my journey. And again, I'm still on this journey, right? I still, I go to the beach, I meditate, I try to, read, I try to work out every day. I try to add on new things for myself to, keep my mental health, as far as that being the number one priority for me, because jumping in, corporate America and as in commercial real estate as a Black man is extremely challenging. And it's not the work that's challenging, although we know just the actual day-to-day of being a commercial real estate advisor is challenging. I would say that's probably like 10% of it.
Yeah. It's crazy to hear you put a percentage to it, but yeah.
I mean, like, this is open for discussion, but I would say 10%, because the other 90% is like, hey,
Tell me about how you got into the corporate world after football? I'm sorry, wait. We got lost there. I got lost there for a second. We started skipping around.
No, I hit you with one. So I went back to SC. I went to school, and it's right around graduation time. I'm in one of my classes, and I'm talking to I guess one of my classmates. Again, I'm 33, they're 23, but we're in the same class. And I'm like, oh man, we gotta hey bro, we gotta get a job. What are you gonna do? Because I wasn't even thinking about that. And so I'm like, all right, well, I want to make a lot of money. I want to make my own schedule. So the process of elimination kind of got me to commercial real estate, right? I want to make a lot of money. I want to make my own schedule. So much stuff just fell by the wayside, right? I'm not going to engineer and miss that boat.
Yeah.
Right. On the math tip, not be a doctor, not going to be a lawyer because I'm not going to law school. I'm already 35 when I graduated. No way I'm going to law school. I need something to dive into right now. And it was commercial real estate. And being a USC Trojan, as you're aware of, Southern California is filled with Trojan alumni in the commercial real estate space. So I tapped into this. I did a keynote speaking engagement for the USC football team and business alumni. And at the speech, I start talking about my next step, and I'm excited for it, but I didn't say what it was. And so there were some people in the audience that were in commercial real estate that I was hoping come up to me and say, "Hey, what is it?" And they did. And I said, "Commercial real estate. Come see me next week." Yes. And so from that point on, I went on like a 4-month tour around Southern California, just meeting with a bunch of Trojans one Trojan would lead me to 3 Trojans. Then another one lead me to 5. And then one will lead me, like the network was unbelievable. Then I got a call from this guy named Nick Brown. And he's like, "Hey, got a job for you. Call this number. You got any questions?" I was like, thank you. Hung the phone up. That was the beginning of my journey.
Wow. Well, that's the power of the network right there.
Power of the network. And it works if you work it, right? Like you got to work it though, Yeah. You got to work it. But yeah, the power of the USC network is tremendous.
So, and are you good with time? Do you still have a few more minutes to?
Yeah. I'm good.
Okay. So one of the things I want to talk about your experience in commercial real estate, but I really want to make sure that we talk about Project Free Will.
Absolutely.
So like you can spend as much time in your experience in commercial real estate as you want, but I want to make sure we get to Project Free Will, because to me, that is the shining light of like how you're really going to break through to the next level of your personhood, your existence. That's why I see it. But yeah, go, please share.
Yeah, no, I mean, the information, like you said earlier, like I'm just thankful for my 7 years in the commercial real estate space, right? The information that I was able to gather is just invaluable. I can take it with me and, be able to apply it to some of the things that I was doing. My experience, there were a lot of good people that I met. There was a lot of good business that was done. Unfortunately for me, in my first space, I experienced some traumatic racial experiences that, led me down a path of just darkness. I was sad. I would have to do so many things just to gear myself up to go to work. I would sleep most of the weekends, just trying to re-energize myself to go back into the office. And I didn't know if I was going to be walking in on a landmine, by just, again, walking to your desk. Somebody could say something that's just completely out of bounds. And I look around, I'm the only guy in there that's Black. And so I don't know what to do. I didn't know what to do. I didn't have the confidence in myself to, set boundaries, because I'm like, this is how I make money. I'm the only Black guy. I don't want to be labeled as the angry Black man. Like, it was crazy. And then I had to start going to therapy to be able to, like, I was initially going to therapy to deal with my life, my previous stuff that I was dealing with. But the next thing you know, I'm talking about work most of the time and just trying to, find different coping mechanisms to go in there and just be able to successfully do my job. But it was one of the most traumatic experiences I have ever been in. Because it was so subtle. Like you can't see that. Like that's not something you can see.
Oh, chocolate covered razor blades. Like,
Yeah.
like it's just like, but also one of the things that's so wild about that experience, and you saying that's the most traumatic of all the things that you went through, you know, the DUI, the injuries, all those things, and now you're at a point where you're in an office and I mean, I'd imagine that some people find it hard, like, really? Like, and then people are making comments. It's like, yeah, it's traumatic. It's traumatic. And there's no way around that. And,
I mean, I can remember the day when I realized like, oh, damn, y'all laughing at me.
yeah.
Right, because I'm from the inner city. I know I could read. I could read the room. But yeah, I'm just thankful that I had the experience to be able to again internalize it and share it with the next generation that wants to get into the space, because commercial real estate as a whole is a great opportunity. It's a great opportunity to change the dynamics of your family's life. And I'm at my age, I wasn't willing to sit around for the next 15, 20 years and look up and be like, I was in a situation where I was losing my soul, a piece of my soul every day.
I'm so happy that you're being candid about and talking about this, because this is one of the big reasons why I started the Black Commercial Real Estate Network, is because there's this experience that you have, and I've been in the industry almost 20 years, and that subtlety that you talking about, and it's there, and it doesn't feel right, and you're just like, who do I talk to about this? Like, there's no one around here that looks like me that I could talk to about this, and that, I feel like that's been so powerful for so many people to be like, okay, not only are my feelings valid, but they're shared by other people. I'm not alone. I'm not alone through this. So, I mean, that's one of the best blessings to all of this, is being able to connect and being able to share these deeper feelings with people and give us the power to give us that authority. Because like you said, you're like, I didn't have the confidence to say anything or to really respond in a way that I wanted to. But because now you're able to talk about it and really be open about it, not only does it give you the confidence to say like, hey, no, this is how I feel and this is what I'm going to do about it, but all those other things in your life that you're like, and you know what else? Watch this. I'm going to go do this too, right? Like that confidence yields and begets other confidence and other things, and it just continues to compound going forward.
Yeah. Yeah, no, you're 100% right. I think everything that led me into this commercial real estate space gave me the resiliency and the the foundation to be able to withstand it. But I wouldn't wish that on anyone. I wouldn't wish going in that type of hostile racial environment for anyone. It's not good for the soul. It'll crush you and it could potentially kill you.
One of the things that I think that most of the people that in my career that I've managed real estate for them, because a lot of what I've done is third party management, and I've realized a couple of years ago that most of the people that I'm managing real estate for did not make their wealth in real estate. Like, they made it somewhere else, and then they bought real estate and they were able to grow. They were hold it and grow. And so now I'm like, okay. So maybe I gotta leave, go get wealth somewhere else, and then come back. And so now, because of the tool, and granted, like, you shouldn't have to deal with the things that you did, but now you're going on to something else, and you're able to make a huge impact. But now, guess what? When you're there, when you're doing that, now you're going to be able to come back and be the owner of all the real estate and know what you're talking about, not just be a passive owner. You're going to be able to, like, no. These cap rates are wrong. Like, this reimbursable expense is it's in the wrong column here. So So that's something powerful in that and what you're doing.
Again, like I'm thankful for the knowledge that I was able to get. It's invaluable, and you're right on the right track. Now it's like, well, why am I going to continue to do it that way? I might as well go make some money and do it for myself.
Mm-hmm.
That's the beautiful thing about real estate. Commercial is it's more than one way to go about it.
Yeah,
and that's the beautiful thing about this world we live in, especially in this new information, this technology, this social world. Like there's so many ways that before in the past there was gatekeepers to prevent you from doing things like what we're doing right now. Now we don't need. We just need a camera and a good idea and the opportunity.
Yeah.
And boom, you're on. And so that makes me feel good, by launching this passion project called Project Free Will, PFW. And I've been having a great time doing it because it encompasses everything that I love to do, business, music, fashion, journalism, talking, podcasts. So it's pretty much a multimedia platform, giving athletes an opportunity to share stories through their lens. I'm also having the opportunity to share my story through speaking engagements, corporate speaking, community college speaking, athletic teams, etc. So it's just fun, man. We putting together the same, a pitch deck, out call list, a call list is no different than outreaching and cold calling. So I'm just doing the same thing, but it's just like I'm the product, and that's a lot more fun.
Yeah. And now, because of all your experiences and all the different pools that you, no pun intended, all the different pools that you've been in, it's like you're bringing your whole self to this, and now you can draw on those past experiences and even all the things that you touched on today of like, oh, this is what I learned here. Oh, and I learned this lesson here, and you carry all that with you now. So you're bringing your whole self, a holistic approach to this project.
Yes, I'm bringing everything that's inside of me. But most importantly, just being truth, like expressing my truth, and being someone on the front lines give others the opportunity to do the same, and be seen, be heard, right? Because a lot of athlete stories are told from the lens of someone that's not the athlete, and I believe for me, having a safe place, especially life after sports, is important. And I just get to encompass so many different things that I enjoy and mix my business and passion and find a way to make some money doing it. It's just like, man, it feels free. So I'm super thankful. I got a great team, and it's been awesome.
Well, Will, I'm super proud of you. I'm a big fan of everything that you're doing. And you said a lot of things today. I didn't know the full backstory like you gave today, and it's extremely inspiring. And I'm excited for you. And the world is your oyster, and I'm happy to even play a small role in that, hoping to share your story. And thank you, man. Appreciate it.
I appreciate you. Thanks for having me. Anything you ever need from me, feel free to give me a shout. If anybody out there listening want to follow Project Free Will on Instagram at Project Free Will, one word. My personal Instagram is at Will _Poole, Poole. And we just out here just trying to share stories and spread some light on these athletes' perspectives. I'll be doing a lot of interviews and just some cool stuff to come. Stuff to come.
Well, we'll share all of your contact information, all your projects in the show notes. Okay. And Will, great stuff, man. Appreciate it.
All right, man. Thanks again. Thanks for having me, bud.
Thank you so much for tuning in to this episode of Tools, Talents, and Techniques. We hope that you enjoyed the conversation. And if you did find value in the episode, please consider subscribing to the podcast on your favorite platform, leaving a review, and sharing with your network. We have an amazing lineup in the coming weeks and months with some very impressive leaders and some of the heaviest hitters in business who are making a positive impact in the world. So stay tuned for more exciting episodes and special features coming up. We appreciate your ongoing support and and look forward to welcoming you back next time on Tools, Talents, and Techniques.